Good evening, everyone. Big Cheds, just Big Cheds coming to you live. I don't know if you, can you guys hear me? Just want to say what's up. If you guys just want to say what's up, give a little shout out there in the chat room. I see a bunch of people showing up. I think we'll have a nice little show here. You guys hear me okay? Sure you do. All right, so what's going on right now? It's kind of an interesting time. For Bitcoin. I don't know what you guys think. I'm starting out here in the daily chart, and we'll kind of bounce around here a little bit. I'll talk about some of the news just in case you guys haven't kept up in the news. But we'll start with a little bit of a big picture here. So where are we? I mean, we're kind of dealing with a very important level here. So if we look at the level that we're dealing with, and that level is, this line is at 6,600 roughly. So back in late October last year, we ran into some resistance and we had trouble breaking this 6,100 level, consolidated, broke through it. So it wasn't as much in play back here. This level we're looking at now, as this has been an important level on the way down, right, since that peak. So you can see on this big drop back in February, let's just kind of get a little bit closer there. Since big drop in February, this is a very important area. Okay, 6,600, very important area. Okay, and then we were able to bounce a little bit. We put it into a double top here, double rejection, upper Bollinger Band. Price fell, unable to rally, and lo and behold, this was a very significant area. And what happened is we essentially formed I remember people were looking for like a diamond bottom at that point. You could see even a double bottom forming, and there it was, and it held there for support. You did have a temporary breach of the support, but the bulls fought back, came back up, rejected again. Now, when we came back down here, what's notable is this was a very key bear break on like the 12th of June or thereabouts. In my view, a very key bear break because we lost that support, which we had held twice before. And we ended up putting in I'm going to pull it up for you real quick. There we go. So we essentially formed inverted head and shoulders. Head, left shoulder, right shoulder. So essentially formed the inverted head and shoulders. But as it was doing that, both of these shoulders, it ran into trouble. So that prior support was now resistance, right? So, wow, okay, that's a pretty key area. So what happens when we break it here? Boom, buy signal. The buy signal here was really nice. If you sit back and you wait for a setup, I'm going to remove, let's just remove this one and that one. This one right here, guys, this is a crazy buy signal because you not only neckline break, but look, the 8 EMA is crossing the 34 EMA. Like the green line's crossing not only the middle Bollinger, but also the 34 EMA. This right there, that's called a convergence. When you have more than when you have more than one signal of in a row, at the same time rather. So pardon me, there's 3 ones here. Stochastics RSI cross. You have the resistance break. You have the MA crossing. So this was actually a very nice setup if you were just looking to play it, and you had some nice gains yielded from that. If you played it perfectly, which no one does. On the way back down, it was logical to actually potentially hold support here, but we didn't. It was a lower Bollinger Band area. You have this doji from August 5th. So after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row, red, and we're on the Bitfinex chart here, you put this doji in, and then you had a spinning top. So if you just take these 3 days, that suggests a reduction of the prior force, which is bearish. And that kind of was suggesting, hey, maybe we're slowing down. Maybe we're going to hold here support at this key level. No, drop below the key level, okay? drop. Where do we find support? You know, somewhere in the head of that. Let's put another line here. You know, we found our support somewhere, you know, in that range. You know, back from that mid to late June area. So now what are we doing? We're in this range. It's a box. And, you know, what jumps out to me is we had, I mean, the candles aren't bad, right? Because you have a series of inverted hammers, and you have this is a hammer, and these candle bodies are pretty small. I mean, it's indecision. Nobody's really is in charge right now. But this inverted hammer formed what's called an upthrust, where you have a temporary, it's a breakout, but it's a fake breakout. It's the opposite of a spring. And you could argue that this hammer was a spring as it broke support and it came back up. Like, you know, so it's like a false breakout in either direction is a signal in the other direction. So this, like a false breakout here, is extra bearish. We'll have to see. I mean, we'll have to see what today looks like. Today looks okay so far. You know, we've been trading off red, green, red, green. So that's kind of where we're at. We're in this really important range. So that's big picture. I mean, I could go weekly, but let's just kind of start right there. All right. I did a public update on Bitcoin Live earlier today. Let's see. So this is so here's that level we talked about. And, you know, during that level, when that level broke, you know, I said that the bulls, I don't know, my tweet basically said, you know, they made a major down payment on a reversal, you know, basically saying the bulls, you know, the bulls are really trying to steal the narrative here. And this is a 15-minute chart. Didn't really work out that well. I updated basically saying we had a full retracement of those gains. So if you're watching the 1 hour chart and I saw this, I didn't really either. I didn't, you know, tweet it or anything, but you could see we had a tweezer top, and then we broke support. But let's go to the 1 hour chart. Let's do it this way. So we had the tweezer top. This is a tweezer top. Let's see. Tweezer top. All right. They don't have to be exactly the same high of day. These were very similar, very close. They don't have to be the same candle body either. Tweezer top. And tweezer top has more significance when the second candle has volume. And there wasn't a lot of volume behind this. It's a bearish harami, but there wasn't a lot of volume behind it. A couple things in this 1 hour chart. So we have the tweezer top. And as you notice, if you're watching the 1 hour chart, you say, okay, let's get a little closer here, actually. Let's go like this. Pardon me, I'm fumbling. Big Jonas will be yelling at me right now. Here we go. So you're seeing right here, you're like, okay, maybe it's going to rally. So if you study Japanese candlesticks, Steve Nissen talks about how after this type of a candle, if you're looking for support, you know, you expect it to retrace. A logical support should be from the midpoint of the candle down to the base of the candle. So you could have theorized potentially you have tweezer top, but maybe it's finding support because you have these series of small candle bodies: spinning top, inverted hammer, spinning top, hammer, inverted hammer, doji, and then even a lower shadow. But I mean, that dream was quickly put to an end here when you have this boom. Bulls took right over, not a ton of volume behind it though, which is notable. So went that lower on, you know. So I think this bounced because of BitMEX maintenance or something. So you could argue artificial, but the volume is the volume and it plays out. And you have a bear break, and the other signal was when you broke the base of support of that prior, you know, that candle in the 1 hour candle. So those are a couple things to watch, and notably, as it was trying to recover here, you could argue it was putting in like a bearish continuation pattern, and perhaps it's breaking that here. You know, this is almost like an advanced block pattern, and you can see. Look at the size. Look at these three candles where the candle body is progressively getting smaller. Let's see if I have a picture of that. I can show you what I'm talking about. Kind of like advanced block. It's a continuation pattern, so that would mean it would be slowing down. You know, let me do this. I mean, you know, it might be slowing down for a while. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. So if you're bull, clearly you're watching the high of this candle. This is a 1 hour chart. You're watching the high of this candle to see if you can break, yada, yada, yada. So let me get back to, before I drift away too much, let's get back to what I was talking about. So we had the break, the bullish break, we had the bearish retrace. And then today we had a couple different news items. So apparently the SEC like denied all ETFs, all the pending ones. But then it turned out like the commissioner was like, hold on, we're going to stay that. This is actually kind of interesting. Then the commissioner said, let's hold off on that. I want to review this more, I guess. So there's some more time for review. So I don't know where the tweet is, but I had basically theorized. So if you think about it, right? So especially right here, this is before the news hit, I believe. Right. So this is before the news hit. People were expecting the ETF to be denied, right? People were expecting the ETF to be denied. So think about how buy the rumor, sell the news works. If it's bullish news, people buy ahead of time because they know what the news is, or they think they know what the news is, and that's what gains are baked in. This is pretty basic stuff. So I was maybe I can find it. Let me just see real quick. Pardon me if you just give me a moment, folks. Here we go. It'd be a lot more interesting if I can show it to you instead of trying to explain myself. So if buy the rumor, sell the news is a thing, and we are falling in anticipation of an ETF rejection, shouldn't the price of Bitcoin actually rise on rejection news? Thought experiment. So, yeah, I mean, if you think about that, it's kind of interesting, right? So if people are buying ahead of time because they know the news is good, and if they're selling ahead of time because they know the news is bad, wouldn't that mean maybe we'd actually, go up on the bad news? And what's going on? It looks like we actually kind of have, at least in the short term. I think the rejection was like around here. I saw a couple tweets from some smart people, I believe smart, who were kind of making fun of those who shorted on the news. It's like shorting on the news that everyone knew was coming, so therefore was baked in. But like very few were actually saying and kind of thinking that through. If it's already baked in, wouldn't it bounce? So it'd be interesting to see how this plays out, nonetheless. So that's a kind of a good sense of where we're at in Bitcoin. What I want to do is check in with the chat room. I can take a couple requests from the chat room. Why don't we do that now? And then I'll check some of the top altcoins just for some fun. We'll do some of those and we'll go from there. So let me just check with the chat room. Requests? Anyone have requests? All right, Lisk. Is that a L-I-S-K? Do I have that one? L-S-K? LSK. I believe that's what you're looking for. LSK. So daily chart looks pretty good. You see a bullish continuation pattern with a bull break here. Clearly notable to have broken this resistance from August 17th after this gravestone, or even arguably a shooting star. So that's something to watch. For the bulls, it's nice to note that the RSI is not that high yet. Stochastics RSI can be overbought for quite a while, especially if the RSI has a lot of catching up to do. Let's see. I do see some bearish divergence, though, with the lower high and on-balance volume. I won't do this for everyone, but I'll just show you what I mean. Bearish divergence. Oscillator's got a lower high versus the price. So I may want to curb my enthusiasm, but it looks pretty good right now. Theta. And I'll just be quick because I want to, get as many of these in as I can. Whoa. I mean, this one's a gamble. You got to know coming in that this is a gamble. It has no support, no historic support. And notably, everybody's underwater. If you look where the volume is, all the volume, I mean, there's a ton of volume up here at that 3,500 Satoshi range. So that is interesting. This volume as well yesterday should get your attention. The largest candle volume since early July. kind of got to keep an eye on that. Let's just peek in a little closer, not to get too carried away. So we got to see if this can establish a higher low. Clearly, you've broken the lower high pattern right here. The question is, can you establish a higher low? You're going to have to keep an eye on that. It's still really early on theta. NEO, N-E-O. NEO looks pretty good. I mean, it looks pretty good considering, right, is what I'm saying. We were able to briefly break the 8 EMA here, but unable to hold above it for that long. So I guess you'd be looking more so maybe the Biddle-Bollinger, but EMA 20. It's really like the other one. It's like a higher low. It's really, really important. So everything looks okay, and there's no real divergence that I'm worried about. We're correctly seeing higher lows as you expect. So it's really, and yesterday was pretty good actually. So you really want to see these higher lows maintained. If that can happen, you'll want to see a moving average cross. We haven't seen one. Look at that right there. It just teased you. The 8 EMA, the green line, never passed the 34. So that's how I would kind of measure my move here and look to take profit. You had this evening star 3-candle bearish reversal pattern, and soon after that, you see the EMA. Let's zoom in real quick, I don't want to spend too much time. But you have your evening star, and you could see here, right here, the EMA flattening out, and you knew it wasn't going to cross. So you had a couple good sell signals here back on July 7th for NEO. VET, VET. VET 225 Satoshi. Bullish continuation pattern. Bullish consolidation pattern. So, I mean, I guess green line. I want to see this green line hold. I want to see these highs tested. And that's the name of the game. So it's cautiously bullish on VET. ETH. Never heard of that. Ethereum. 275 big ones. All right. Coinbase. Let's go. I have another one. Coinbase. How about ETHUSD on Bitfinex? Let's do it that way. All right. Bitfinex. So most interesting candle to me is right here. This is the most important candle. If you're a bull, this is a hammer. I'm sure I have one of those, of course. It's a hammer. So let's look around what's going on there. We had the on-balance volume started to bottom out there. We are putting in higher lows. This is currently our higher low, 259.20. Very easy to point out how absurdly low the RSI was on a daily basis. Hadn't been that low since March and actually breached that low. So back to this hammer. We actually even if this is a hammer, but even if this marks the bottom, doesn't mean we won't retest the low of its range. It looks like we actually did. So on this spinning top, we almost tested the complete low of this range. So a lot of times a really good entry will come on a retest of a candle signal or a pattern. Hammer, inverted hammer. Okay, you're like, boom, bulls come up here. You get carried away. You're jumping in here. Oh, now you're underwater. Maybe you capitulated at 250. Well, someone else who was patient waited. Was waiting for a retrace. Didn't happen. Okay, maybe it's coming. Okay, it's probably coming. You might have maybe started to scale in here and then boom there. And now you see what happens. Kind of wait and see what happens. If the price can maintain a higher low, you're in really good shape. If you had played it that way, that would probably be textbook. So that's kind of what I think about that. Theta XLM. Let's go this way. XLM, Stellar Lumen. Higher lows still. lower highs, equilibrium consolidation pattern. We have our high, lower high, lower high. Basically, this is all shared lower high, but it's really this one. Now this is even lower. So lower highs, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, high ho, high ho. So the question now is, now that we've established that, let's just kind of put this into perspective. That's your lower high. That is your higher low. So from henceforth, on this daily chart, you can kind of watch a break of this channel in either direction for a signal. Looking at the oscillators, you'd kind of favor a little bit more favorable to the bulls with the stock RSI resetting. Divergences, no problem there. So that's XLM. TRX. I like a gambling man. TRX. All right. Well, I mean, just from a candlestick basis, doesn't look too bad. You have a Dragonfly Doji. Let's remove these old lines. Dragonfly Doji. What is Dragonfly Doji? That's a Dragonfly Doji. We had a Dragonfly Doji back on August 16th. Nice little bounce. But you see how we're retracing. I mean, it'd be ideal. It'd be if you could if it could retrace maybe back to somewhere in this doji. You know, like here would be a really nice reentry if that ever happened, 278. Because right now it's not exuding anything bullish to me. I would actually watch for this to go a little bit lower, and anywhere in this range, 270 to 290, might get interesting. You want to continue to monitor on balance volume, especially to kind of turn this downtrend around. It's still downtrending, and the price here, we see two clear rejections of the middle Bollinger, the MA20. 1, 2. So, you know, clearly it looks the bulls are in charge. You had a nice little response to this candle signal. Nice volume follow up there too as well, but it just didn't pay off. The bulls were not able to sustain. Let's take a look at anything else. Let's see here, folks. See a lot of requests. I'll try to get as many of them done as I can. XRP, Lisa, let's check out XRP. 5,000 Satoshi. That would seem like a very important psychological level, rather. 5,000 Satoshi. So kind of jumps out to me is we are unable to break 34 exponential moving average. So any kind of bounce, we want to measure it, the next bounce, whenever that happens, against the ability to break this exponential moving average. The volume cluster is slightly favorable in my view, although this is a lot of, it's mixed. I like the volume cluster though. You want to see a lot of volume. You see volume picked up here near the bottom and then near the top. Low volume consolidation, volumes picking up again. You know, back here was a very nice play where you had this dip below the lower Bollinger, bulls rejected lower prices. You had this hammer candle, or even a Dragonfly Doji, arguably inverted hammer, spinning top. So there's a couple nice signals here, and it had some follow through. So that is notable. And when you were getting these nice candle signals back in a week ago, 10 days ago, the RSI on the daily chart was really beat down. But what's interesting is it was beat down even further back in late July, and it actually still had a bounce from there. I just didn't like this. You didn't get as good candle signals as you got here, candlestick signals back here. I mean, this is just, indecision, but there was really nothing to be confident about. And the volume picked up here, so there's more emphasis behind those signals. You have the stochastics cross. Did cross here, but just not as much volume. So maybe that's the differentiator in terms of what it's going to do. Like I said, watch the yellow line. Watch to see if higher lows can be maintained. I'd be watching this inverted hammer, the high of day, as a potential support. You really want to see that hold, but ideally you'd want, which is 47.80. Is that right? Yeah, 47.80. But ideally 5K. You'd want to hold 5,000. But probably won't happen. Let's see. We'll do a few more here. LTC for Juan Robles. All right, so LTC also had a decent signal here. We can call this a hammer candle, given that the lower shadow is at least twice the size of the real body. We had this doji, indecision doji, little almost an inverted hammer, and then a boom, Maribozu candle. Do I have that to show you guys? Maribozu candle. Green Maribozu, very bullish, but there's no follow through. So clearly, we're watching for the 830 EMA cross. We had a 834 EMA cross. We had a failed one back here in late July, and it looks like we are going to be flirting with one here in the next week or so. RSI has a lot of room to run, even if stochastics RSI can be overbought for quite a while, as it was back here on this move 131, to 160. And then it even went as high as 190. So it went from 130 to 190. You didn't really care about stochastics RSI just yet, even though it gave you early signs of bearish divergence here. So watch for an EMA cross, on balance volume higher low, price higher low, RSI higher low, price higher low. So want to kind of keep an eye on that. This one is still really early, but it's really the name of the game is going to be the higher low. I would say you'd really want to see this level hold, this high 53.87, and kind of go from there. Let's just quickly take a look at Bitcoin again. Still pushing up a little bit, holding that 6,500 level. That's Coinbase chart. We have talked about, just to remind you about this channel we are in right now. So I'm going to remove all those and not confuse myself. So clearly, you want to keep an eye on a couple levels here. So clearly, we want to keep an eye on the high of this candle on that last impulse move, which is going to be 68.99. We want to keep an eye on this most recent low here. Daily chart. Most recent low, 62.52. If that low breaks, we have other support levels, but we want to really start to, we really want to keep the higher low train going. That's what's most important. So we're clearly in a range right now. You can watch these. It's a pretty wide range. It's a 10% range, but it's a no trade zone to me, in my view right now. We have to wait and see how this plays out. Clearly, the price bulls are, for the moment, rejecting lower prices. So that is somewhat heartening. So we have to kind of keep an eye. Like I said, make sure the higher lows can hold, and we'd have to go from there. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Had a lot of fun. I like interacting with you guys on Twitter. You can find me, of course, at Big Cheds. And hope to see you all on Bitcoin Live. It is a wonderful platform that I'm very much proud to be a part of. There's some really wonderful teachers and analysts that I work with. I've learned a lot from them, and it's just a really great project. We've been putting together some. I know I've been putting together a lot of signals guides, bullish and bearish signals. Everyone approaches it from a different angle. So there's such a wealth of resources available. And so I just encourage you to check that out. You can go to YouTube, the Bitcoin Live page. We have our webinars from each of the analysts for you to check out. And like I said, we recently changed pricing. We have a quarterly and a monthly option as well. So on that note, I want to thank you guys for showing up. And hopefully I'll get a chance to spend some time with you again soon. Take care. Big Cheds signing out.